All right, new lesson. Yay! So let's take a look at what we got going on here. So this is, we are going to be looking now at solving quadratic equations by doing something, it will involve a little factoring like the last lesson, but it's a little different in the sense that we got to do a little more tinkering around before we can go ahead and factor and then find our roots and all that. So this is called completing the square, and this is a skill that is very useful. You will use this a lot of times when you're solving an equation and it's not working out neatly or something like that, and you're not exactly sure how to go. So you can do this completing the square. This is particularly useful if you don't really know how to factor something, like if you forgot how to factor it or something like that. Completing the square allows you to put it in a form that is easily recognizable by you, and then sets it up so it's a lot easier to get at a straightforward solution. So let's just look at what we mean. First of all, this is the intro video, so let's talk about what that means when you complete a square. Okay, so I have this equation written down here. Okay, let me put in a better color. X squared plus bx plus question mark. Now, for most of these that I'm showing you, we're going to be talking about completing the square when this first coefficient is 1. Now, you can complete the square with things when you have a different coefficient, but you got to do some factoring and all of that. So basically, when you are completing the square, you're assuming that your coefficient, your a, is equal to 1. All right, and if it's not 1, you'll make it 1 somehow through one way or another, and we'll cover that in another video. So that's why that we don't have an a here, because it's 1. And then it's plus bx plus, and then I have a question mark there because that's what completing the square means. And it means what it sounds like. We are going to turn this into a square trinomial, and there is a specific way to do it, and it kind of makes sense. And we're going to look at a couple and see if you can get an intuitive idea about how to do this. So if we look at this first example we have here, we have a complete trinomial, all right? And if we look at that, we can see that if you remember these, that this is already a square trinomial. And I want to look at this to see if we can make some connections. So what we know about the trinomial is that if I factor it, right, I'm going to get x plus 3 squared, right? Or x plus 3 times x plus 3, if that works more for you. I'm more about this first form because I'm lazy. But we've got x plus 3 squared, and there's a special relationship between this term when you have a square trinomial and this b term. And what you'll notice with all of these is that this b term is always twice this. It's always twice that. So if it's a positive 3, your b term is going to be positive 6. And if this were a negative 3, if we had this situation, we would have x squared minus 6x plus 9. So what's nice about realizing that is if I can figure out what number I'm doubling from this, then I can tell you what that number is going to be. And that's what completing the square is all about. So let's look at one more example where it's already done. Well, if you look at this, I know I can factor this to x minus 2 squared, right? This is one of our special products, right? And all these are going to be the special products. So again, if you look at negative 4 is what you get when you double negative 2. And then, so why is this useful, you ask? All right, well, let's look at an actual example where we got to do this now. Find the value of c that makes the equation a perfect square trinomial. So I know that this value is going to be double whatever, let's see, sorry, I apologize, is going to be double whatever I have in here, right? So I've got x and x. This is positive, so these are all going to be positive. And I know these are going to be the same number. So I know that 18 is what I get when you have this and this added up. So it's going to be double that. So what do I multiply by 1? That's going to be basically half of 18. Well, 9, right? So you have x plus 9, and you have x plus 9. And if you add that up. 9x plus 9x gives you 18x. And we're purposely writing this way so we get a perfect square trinomial, right? This could be a lot of different things, but we want this to be a perfect square trinomial. And so then when you try to figure out what c is, you just got to basically kind of in your head, you say, well, if I know that this factor is going to be a 9, c is going to be that factor squared, right? Just like this is that factor squared, your c is this factor squared. So what's 9 squared? 9 squared equals 81. So your c is going to be 81. All right, let's try another one. So x squared minus 12x plus c. So the formal rule for this, now that we've kind of gone through this, is you're going to take this b term and you're going to divide it in half. All right, and we divide it in half because we know it's double what you get when you multiply that. Well, half of negative 12 is negative 6. Okay? And so I know that negative 6 is going to be the number that I have in here. Okay? And then all you got to do is you figure this out and you go, okay, that's negative 6. So then you just take that and you just square it to figure out what your c term is. Man, all kinds of crazy things are happening right now. I don't know what's going on. All right, so let's take a look. I don't know what happened. All right, we're back. That was really weird. All right, so you have negative 6 squared, which is 36. All right, and so your c is going to be 36. Even though when you factor it, you're going to get negative 6, your c is always going to be whatever that factor thing is squared. All right, so that's kind of the trick to doing these, is just not getting turned around. So the formal order is you divide this in half, all right, which we did. We divided it, and then you square it. So divide it in half, square it, and then you'll always be able to get your c. And then in the next few videos, we're going to look at, all right, great, I know how to do this. What does that do for me? And then I will show you. So we'll see you then.